So thanks for the opportunity to present to you today. I am speaking on behalf of BPH Energy. However, the primary presentation focus will be on Advent Energy, but I'll speak further about our other two principal investments, which are in clean hydrogen technologies and cortical dynamics. I'm going to speak at length at the moment about the energy market in Australia. I'm going to take you to a slide of all of the onshore and offshore petroleum permits in Australia. When you look at New South Wales, you can see, in fact, that there are only two petroleum permits. That is the Santos projects in the north of the state and the Pepperleven project, which is in the Sydney Basin offshore Newcastle. The reason that I have that slide there is that Victoria, which has produced the bulk of the gas for domestic supply into the entire east coast of Australia, but primarily into New South Wales and Victoria, is in the midst of a 50% reduction in output, and this will occur by 2025. In context, Victoria has produced around 6 TCF of gas over the last 60 years in that process. And the prospective recoverable resource of the offshore Pepperleven permit is 5.7 TCF. So if we're successful in the development of this project and the proving up of the project, then in fact we could, in that circumstance, be a solution to the entire East Coast gas supply crisis, and I'm going to speak to that in just a moment. So if we look at what's occurred in the federal sphere at the moment, Madeleine King has just introduced a future gas strategy consultation paper at the beginning of this month. Why is that so? Because decreasing gas supply faster than demand will lead to shortages, supply disruption and high prices, whilst worsening poverty and inequality. If we look here at one of the slides out of this consultation paper, and this is a key slide, we see that in fact the deep blue curve is supply under the current circumstances. The lighter blue curve across the top of the bar chart, the top of the graph, shows around 1,800 petajoules a year of demand, and the supply within about a 10-year period is forecast to fall 800 petajoules a year short of the anticipated demand. Now, I'll give you context to that, and I'll do so in the following slides. But one aspect of that will come out very clearly in terms of either cutting entirely domestic supply or cutting export to the detriment of Australia. Here's where we look at domestic demand within the Australian marketplace. Northern Territory has 105 petajoules a year, New South Wales 125 petajoules a year, Victoria 230 petajoules a year. In other words, if we have an 800 petajoules a year shortfall, then in fact you cut out the entire supply into South Australia, Northern Territory, New South Wales and Victoria. That's how serious the current supply crisis is in terms of future gas supply into Australia. And here you're looking at manufacturing and domestic consumption. So can we rely on Western Australia to supply that gas? No, we can't, because if you look here at within the same time frame, the Western Australian supply is going to drop by around 200 petajoules a year beneath demand. And then if we look at the global LNG demand and supply over roughly the same time frame, This is a Rystad graph from current research. The red dotted line is demand, and supply is in the black and green. So you can see that Australia can't rely on getting LNG out of a global network. Let's look back into the Australian gas usage, and the left-hand side of this shows you annual consumption in petajoules per annum, and this is the forecast on an annualised basis. The green triangles, however, show the winter forecast in terajoules per day, and this is right out to 2042. Even by that stage, if you're looking at an annual consumption, 300,000 jobs in New South Wales rely on gas supply, and it supplies around 1.3 million households. New South Wales now produces imports 98% of its gas requirements out of Victoria and Queensland. The pipeline capacity from Queensland and the north is, quite frankly, not adequate to meet that peak demand for gas. We have in the offshore basin area a gas phased basin, and that's the strength of the area. It's been recognised as a gas phased basin for approximately 20 years. Very important in terms of the sourcing of that gas supply. We have around a 20 square kilometre target in this area offshore Newcastle. It's about 30 kilometres southeast of Newcastle. Now I'll just move quickly into hydrogen and the cortical product. The strength of clean hydrogen is in the turquoise because it's produced from methane gas, and its real significance is in efficiency, water usage, which is zero, electricity significantly less than other alternatives, no CO2 emissions, and a very low space utilisation. Cortical Dynamics, of course, has just received FDA certification, and we have an agreement with Philips, which is in, and the play screen is in about 50% of operating theatres on a global basis. The BARM system collects the EEG from the brain and expresses this in the form of two indices which are used in measuring depth of anaesthesia and analgesia. The analgesia component is what we're going through further certification through at the moment. So a short disclaimer, and I'll finish at that point, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today.